art. What is your favorite type, medium of art?
Okay, that's a
Do
big
you have
question.
one?
Well, it's funny because I appreciate everybody and their hands. You know, art takes guts.
Yeah.
Everybody is judging themselves. Like everybody says, oh, I can't draw a stick figure. That's lots of people can't.
Right,
You know,
right.
I always describe it as art is this big tree. And if you think about a tree and all the limbs, and then we get into branches, then we get into twigs, there's something that you're good at. You know, like whether it's knitting or, you know, I mean, we could deep dive into art. Is knitting art? You know, obviously people have made all kinds of techniques
Sure.
art. But I got sucked into jewelry making when I was in 6th grade. So I went down the accessories, the art of accessories road. But I'm always amazed at what people are churning out, what their brains are incoming and the output of creative expression, and how accessible it is now. You know, we don't have to go to the library and get books.
Yeah.
You know, we can see it instantly.
You have the ability to take art and leverage the bits, the pieces, the sparkles inside each individual and encourage them to pursue it.
I try.
That is something that is uniquely you. Today we're joined with Candie Cooper. She is a multi-time, you'll have to remind me how many, published artist, has been featured across the globe in a lot of different types of settings, whether it's DIY, online, an instructor, in person, creator of events. And I know truly you believe in the power of what art can do
Yeah.
for the self
Yes.
and for a community.
Oh my gosh. It's endless.
Endless.
And I think art is one of those things that it can be as big or as little as you want.
Yeah.
We don't have to do the, you know,
Yeah.
Taj Mahal. I mean,
Right.
we're not looking for the, you know, the Mona Lisa here.
It doesn't have to be, or like the Bean in Chicago, which is an iconic
Yeah.
art piece, art attractor. But one of the things I think that's interesting for Wabash and Wabash County is we have an abundance of artists. You and I have had this conversation before. If we started to list all of the artists that we know that are making a living
Yes.
at producing art, we would most likely forget someone because that list is so long.
It's impressive, and there has been a path slashed. I don't take that for granted. You know, even in Somerset, is that part of Wabash County?
It sure is.
It is. I thought
sure
so.
is.
Just wanted to fact check myself. But there was a pot of artists out there.
Yeah.
And when I moved home to Wabash in 2008, I was blessed because there were artists here that were already hanging out, and they folded me into the mix. And, you know, that was such a great welcome wagon of sorts to feel normal. Because
Yeah.
that's the thing about art is it's kind of, when you're an artist, it's kind of a lonely world, can be.
Okay.
And I love this town because there have been pioneers that have Max Gray, you know, Thad
Yeah.
Miller,
Yeah.
that have made it normal. You know, that it's a thing.
Yeah. Small communities don't always get recognized for being art hubs.
No.
And yet our community, I would most certainly consider an art hub due to the number of artists that are producing and selling their art as a career, but also being asked for their input
Yeah.
on how do we strengthen our community. And you are one of those people who very rarely says no. Candie, we've got an idea. What do you think? Yes. How can I help? I'll brainstorm with you. I'll spitball with you. I'll show up and I'll help. Do you think that Wabash is kind of unique as a small town to have the input of artists like we do?
Yes. But I think if I go back to when I first moved home, we were blessed to have Richard Ford and the Honeywell Center making it a thing and being supportive and recognizing the need for it. And I mean, you know, that was huge. I don't know, had Richard not invited me over to a couple dinners, you know, and I could connect with other artists and just like feel appreciated. And then the Honeywell Center folding me into their educational outreach, I don't know if I would still be standing here. Probably not. You know, I mean, the support was here.
Yeah.
So I think Wabash is great. It's inspiring that we had those people that said, no, we need you. We need you here. And then you had stores like Dorothy Eileen's that was like, you should come exhibit your work here, and little opportunities here and there, and the Arts Fest. And there were just enough roots starting to, you know, be put in the ground that I stayed, you know, and I'm glad I did. So, but this is a special place in that there were people that knew the importance, that had already paved a little path for us.
Do you think there's a reason why other communities don't lean on their artist community for support or input or creativity? Do you think that obviously it's a missed opportunity, but do you have any idea why?
Could be. Well, you know, that is a good question. I think when it comes to working with artists, see, I don't know if I'm full-blown artist, you know, because I have my businesses and I have learned how to make a living, and
You're an entrepreneur at heart as well.
Yeah, I'm an entrepreneur, but it's through the vehicle of accessories, you know?
Yeah.
And so, but I think sometimes people assume that artists are going to be these rebel types, and we are. Don't tell us what we're going to do. And
Don't
what we're
put me
not.
in a box.
Yeah, and
don't cage me.
We make some waves, and that's hard. I mean, I don't know how many boards I've been asked to leave. I think because I just asked. I got like,
excuse me,
you know, and I'm sorry for that, but I think it takes guts to be an artist, like I said earlier, and you are okay with being criticized. If you've made it this far, you're okay with taking the heat. And so I think sometimes it's a challenge to figure out how to work with artists, because oftentimes, you know, if we don't get our way, it's like we're out. You know, I don't want to speak for the collective, but we do have a vision, and there has to be mutual respect from both to move forward. And I think oftentimes, even if you look at brands, you know, the artist takes it so far, but then the board of directors comes in and says, okay, we're good here. We got it, you know, and then the artist is out because they're wild, you know, and they just, you know, but that's what you need. You need some wave makers and some visionaries.
100% agree with that.
But then you need the Richard Fords to say, I get it, and we're going to just clean that up a little bit, and we appreciate you. And so there's got to be that mutual respect.
I agree with that. And I've been lucky enough to work alongside different artists on community investment projects. And for me, who wouldn't consider myself a natural born creative, it was a challenge in the beginning to learn how to work with artists. Okay?
Well, I just had a flashback to a time when I was on the Arts Fest committee.
Yeah.
And they were like trying to think like, how do we get younger people in here? And I was like, what if we had like an art battle? And we got people to do these paintings, and then we wrecked them with John Deere tractors. You know, the losers got ran over with a John Deere or something. And I was, this is like when my like first moved home, and I think everybody in the room was just like, you could have heard a gnat land on the table.
The eyes got real big. It's like, how do we redirect this without hurting her feelings?
What are we going to do with this? You know, but it was like something that would be very common in, you know, you said I was well-traveled. This would be very common in other, something crazy like this, out of the blue. You know, we were down at Paradise Springs. Like, it was something very outside the box. And, like, I don't think we went through with that idea, which I still think maybe we could talk about that after the show.
Yeah, we can earmark that for a maybe. As artists in general, they do think in this way and view our community through a different lens generally. And where I think very linear, I think in the way of outlines and project plans. And I've learned when you work with an artist, you have to give them fuzzy outlines. Like, this is where I need you to work in, but you cannot cage an artist, because what comes on the other side for a community are murals and mosaics and public artscapes.
That's the mutual respect. They're wild animals. I mean, we are like wild animals. We just need to, don't fence us in. We'll take the parameters, though.
Yeah.
And that's the best way to approach it, really, is just say, like, here's my expectations. Can you do it?
Yeah.
And then, you do the check-ins along the way, and it can be so good, you know? And it really does. It pulls people together. And I think it's very, the mural that was done by Erica Tyson downtown, that is something that, this beautiful, huge mural.
Over 400 foot if you're referencing she's done a few. One is that long one along the wastewater treatment
The
plant.
wastewater treatment.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, when you drive by that is, people see that.
Transformative for
and
that area.
Something to be proud of in your town.
I think too that when you meet with an artist and show them a space, sometimes it's just if you can give an artist a budget-ish. Artists always want to add that one more.
We want to blow the budget.
One more thing. The way that an artist approaches looking at an area of concern or blight and can present solutions that are beyond just concrete and your regular brick, mortar, square.
Yeah.
We're just going to put a bench here and pave it. And you're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. An artist can see this blank canvas area.
Totally. And you need that.
Yeah.
You really need that, because I think the other beautiful thing about artists, if they're practicing artists and they've been, they have guts. And they're going to
Huge.
see it. They're going to know it, and they see it, and they don't care if you don't like it. Fine, don't do it. And you need that vision, and you need someone that has enough guts to pull it off.
And I think that the other part too is art takes time. And so I think something in Wabash County that has been accepted, and maybe because of thought leaders like Richard Ford, is artists' time is worth value. And you can't just look at local artists and ask them to just donate it. This is their skill.
You're spot on. I was really lucky when I moved home. I had a conversation with 3 of my favorite ladies in town, and I was always getting hit up for donations. And I'm thinking to myself, like, at that time, I was making $14,000 a year. No joke. When I first moved home, and I was going to do something,
Yeah.
but I was constantly getting hit up for donations. And I had these women that would sponsor, they would buy the piece from me.
Beautiful.
And then they would donate it. And we all 3 of our names, I gave them a good deal on it, but they paid for the piece. And there was that kind of collaboration. But, it doesn't matter if you're from a small town or a big city, that often the art is valued, but the artist is not.
Yeah.
And
Sure.
I mean, everybody, if you really think about it, it's like you love the thing, but you don't want to pay $100 an hour or whatever you're paying. I mean, I don't know what the going rate is even for a muralist anymore or whatever,
Sure.
But it has to be done because it's a skill. It's just like a bricklayer, or it's a trade.
I agree.
Of sorts.
It is a trade of sorts.
So
One of the things I find valuable also from you, Candie, is when you put your kind of long-lasting roots in this community. I know you always claimed this is your home, because it is, and have always shown this community love. But when you put your long-term roots down in this community, you then stepped out and started volunteering and serving on different boards. That kept you. That didn't fire you.
yeah.
And amongst having an already busy business, so you are a very successful, you're a hustler.
I'm a
You've
hustler.
got grit. You can fall down and you're going to get right back up.
Right.
That's just Candie Cooper.
Yeah.
And you'll show people along the way how you did it. You
Yeah.
know, you don't covet your secrets. I think that's beautiful. For you to be back in the community and also using your artistic talent and volunteering and serving on boards.
Yes.
What is that like for you to see your input through a creative side come to fruition through your service?
Okay. So it's interesting because I grew up in a service-hearted family. My grandparents, my mom, endless hours of volunteer work. And so it's just what we do. We're all workhorses. And I think we also have battled enough anxiety, in a day where now we can say what it is. All of us have nervous energy. And instead of sitting at home with the blankets over our head, we choose to stay busy and do good, So that's been a give thing. I think a lot of artists battle probably anxiety, a lot of creatives.
Sure.
On a side note. But to see the improvements it's really, it's amazing what Wabash has done in 15 years, period. And to be a part of that, I don't even think of myself as a part of it. I just think of it, it's a team. This is a team effort. It took everybody like cheering each other on and supporting each other. So that's been a great way to connect with other people, in the community. I've loved that part of it. And, to get to know each other. But to see things moving, at the end of the day, Christine, you know it and I know it, we have to build the community we want to live in. So we got to get our hands dirty. And so, it was worth it. I mean, it was, if we want it, we got to build it. So it was just great to collaborate with other brains and build that community we want to live in and make it special and unique and diverse.
And artist minds do that.
They do it naturally.
Naturally. When you are building your board of directors, I have a board of directors, or you're thinking of nonprofits, they instantly go for, okay, we need an attorney. We need a financial person. We need someone who maybe understands marketing. We need someone who has lots of relationships. Don't sleep on the artists and inviting them to your board, because they're creative problem solvers.
Right.
They are ones that are going to be the first to step up, think outside something that nobody else is doing.
Yeah.
And they're also really engaging and have these personalities that aren't just the square, formal, normal things that happen during a regular board meeting that are just, okay, let's read the financials. Yes, but you've got to also have this creative side for your business to continue to develop and grow. And I don't care what business you are, I think artists bring a level of community service. Again, we don't want to lump artists into one category, but as a generality, they bring this creativity and life.
And they are unlabeled marketers.
Oh,
I
absolutely.
mean, if I look at, even we look at the art coming out of the schools. People that are coming to town are looking at that and saying, okay, I see it. Art is a marketing piece of sorts. So if you have an artist on your board, they have their own following. They're probably going to talk about what they're involved in.
True.
And they're going to probably fold that into their story, which is what artists are, is essentially, storytellers.
Yeah.
And I think, we've even done it with our retreats and things unintentionally. I mean, we've had people from all over the country.
Incredible.
When we held our retreats, we were bringing them in from Alaska and Maryland and Hawaii and Florida and Alabama. And just insane. And so I think when you bring these artists to your group project, you get 10 times back what you're looking for.
Because artists truly care when they're involved with something, or
Yeah,
they're not going to
givers.
waste their time. Givers.
Yeah, they're givers.
Yeah.
They put themselves out there. Yeah.
You have also poured art into the younger generations, not only through the workshops with the Honeywell Arts and Entertainment and what they do in the summer, but you also, and this probably comes from your mother as well, pouring into the best of the best art students when that was a really big program within our community school system. And a piece of that, would you say, is that also encouraging artists to see themselves as a long-term career and community stakeholder?
Yes, the more normalized art is in the schools. I fought hard when we didn't have a certified art teacher at OJ.
And OJ was the elementary school.
Yeah, that goes back to a couple pieces on, we have to have good art coming out of these schools because it is a marketing piece. And we also have to, there's so many layers to my soapbox on this thing, but we have to have kids being successful. And not everybody's going to teach math or do math or whatever. And we need kids that are in trades,
Agreed.
and things like that. So having good experiences in art when they're in elementary school is critical. And the more we make it normal, then the more likely they are to stay. I've had a few kids, just reach out and say, what have you done? And I just consistent marketing of what I do. And
asking you in regard to what have you done to
Career.
grow? Okay.
Career-wise, you got to, but if we don't have these stable art opportunities for them in the schools, they can't even visualize it's possible. And then you've got great art teachers by the time they get in high school saying, there's somebody doing it, there's somebody doing it, there's somebody do it. You're not, yeah, you know, you could start doing it. You know, you don't have to wait anymore. You're capable. So, you know, I was selling my jewelry by the time I was in 8th grade. But that goes back to I was entrepreneur and I was an accessories person. So I just started hustling, you know.
Yeah.
So having these great art teachers that teach kids that it's normal to be an artist, but they have to also have successful pieces. You know, they got to be guided to have some success too.
Yeah.
So it's like a funny balance of.
You can be extraordinarily talented and not be able to bring your art to the marketplace because you just don't know how to bridge that gap between refining your craft.
Yeah, and being supported.
Oh, yeah.
You got to be supported.
Yeah.
And it starts with our teachers, you know.
And pouring that back into our community education piece of it, too.
Yeah.
You know, there's a piece of that as well as if the community celebrates young artists.
Yes.
Then the school will continue to value, I would assume, teaching and investing in art programs.
Yeah. And that's where we're really blessed to have the Honeywell Center, too, because they've created so many opportunities to support talent, you know. And so, I mean, when you travel around, like, people know about the Honeywell Center.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it brings them in. So when we have those school art shows going on down there, that is so brilliant and it is so good, you know. So that is a diamond in our town for art.
Yeah. And I think those young people, too, as they look around our community and see the installation of public art, it's not just one thing. It is the multitude of, we have art sculptures that are in our parks or our main thoroughfares, like the blue and orange polka dotted elephant installation, right? Kinetic art.
Yes.
And your traditional murals.
Yes.
And the metal gabion baskets. And
Yes.
so the diverse types of art, too, in a community doesn't have to just be the traditional. I think some people think it's one or the other in the sense of community development. It's either the side of a building is a mural, or it is one massive sculpture like the Bean in Chicago we referenced that's just an iconic one piece, and then you're done. Check. We did public art. But public art is, and community art is the kids' art banners hanging on the lamppost, right?
Yeah. It's a bouquet. I mean, you got to have a little bit of everything, you know. And that's what makes, you know, you really are then onto acceptance of like, or feeling accepted as an artist too. When you come to a town and you see all these different types of art, you feel like there's a place for me. It's not all one or the other. It's not too top heavy on murals or whatever. It's like, oh, well, there's this little garden with sculptures and there's this big elephant and there's something for everybody.
This is kind of funky, but I like it. I like it.
Yeah, and you know, you may not like some of it, but you may like some, and that's what is cool about art. You don't have to like it all.
Yeah.
I hope you don't.
You shouldn't, because it's not resonating with you.
Right.
And there's this therapeutic piece, too, where artists can also impact our communities. And you talk about Honeywell Arts and Honeywell Center's art program and their workshops. And you also look at the way that artists are integrating with health and wellness as therapies, art therapy, journaling, painting, you know, mental health.
Critical.
Because I would assume there's a way to relate what you're feeling into color, clay.
It's a thing.
Etc.
That's a really basic way to say that, isn't it? But I mean, it's really necessary. And that is, you know, not community related per se, but it all plays in. You know, if we give people the opportunity to de-stress through some creativity and to look at something beautiful, we're creating a really a high vibe, if for lack of a better way to say it, but a aesthetic experiences is what we would call them, and to just space out for a second and look at something cool. That is good for the brain, and so then it's a domino effect, the ripples in the pond, whatever you want to call it, on just the goodness of our town. And I mean, even I dare say those elephants that are outside Modoc's.
Oh,
You know, just these cute little painted elephants. How much fun are those when you drive by and they're just parked on the street? And, you know, but those were all painted by kids.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it's something silly, but people love them.
in a part of our history that brings conversation.
Yes.
And then visitors are always like, what's the story with these elephants around town? Well, let us tell you about the story of Modoc. And when that elephant escaped. Yeah.
And the Beechams have always been, you know, so supportive of artists and having art in their stores. And that's the thing, too, is like it is, I mean, if you hear nothing else, it's a partnership and to invite and to collaborate. I think a lot of people back in the day would get kind of nervous, like, oh, I can't have that. There's competition. It's not, it's the more, logs we throw on the fire, the bigger the fire. What is that saying about boats?
Oh, a rising tide lifts all boats.
Yeah.
So when we're all doing well, we're all doing well.
Yeah, like get together and
yeah.
everybody blast it on your social media and it's good.
Speaking of social media, art is a really great Instagrammable moment in any community. I think that's why a lot of people will do those interactive murals,
Sure.
And we used to have one of those for a while, and then, we painted over it, and it was like looked like a picture frame, and you are here, and welcome to Wabash kind of thing. And then those change, you paint over them and you do something different. Instagrammable moments are part of us being able to tell our story and compete in that digital space. And having a relationship with artists, and you get it, you use social media and digital media.
It's how I can live here.
Yeah.
Come on. And make a living.
And you have relationships across the world. You have customers, clients, DIY people who are wanting to make their own accessories across the world. And so that digital marketplace allows communities also to showcase themselves. And most people aren't just sending a picture of their downtown bench. And that's not the Instagrammable moment. It is that art sculpture. It is that art piece. It's that art backdrop.
Yeah.
That makes a difference. And you could thank an artist for that. It's kind of like, thank a farmer for where you got your food. Thank an artist for those Instagrammable moments that are really touting the story and history of your town.
Yeah. And I think, Wabash, I have to give it to Wabash because those Instagrammable moments, they are good stewards of being and good hosts and hostesses for people coming into town. And the kindness here is to create those moments is here, and so I like that you paint over them. I like that we don't get stale. I like that they're rotating out. I think it's key. I think that's the thing also that I don't want to pop around, but I mean, Wabash has never felt like once the train started moving, it's moving and it's not stagnant. It is, there's an evergreen thing happening here and it keeps rolling out and being current. And that's another thing of artists help keep towns current.
I agree.
Wings were the trend for a while, butterflies, now it's just building art. I mean, even Nicole on the back of her photography building had that beautiful mural done in the back of an alley. That is so good,
Adds color.
Yes, anywhere that we can create these moments like what you're talking about, I look at it as like it's a host. It's like getting your favorite drink or whatever. You like creating these like cool little things.
Yeah.
It's like, it's so funny you say that because I guess a few weeks ago, we've hosted these retreats and we had people, I could not, I got a lot going on at the moment and I couldn't be in town.
You always have a lot going on.
No, this is like exceptionally.
I know. This is like 3 exclamation points. But yes,
And I found out that our Facebook fans, I hate that, our friends, whatever you want to call them, they used Wabash to meet up.
Oh,
they came in from Detroit or Chicago, Alabama. There was a group of them, Ohio, I think.
Yeah.
They all met up here, even though I wasn't around. My old assistant could meet up with them.
Yeah.
I mean, Wabash is a great host, but there's lots of artsy things that I'm, as an artist, that's what they were coming in for, is to learn jewelry making or whatever. So there was enough other things.
Yeah.
And Wabash is such a good host and so beautiful here that they could hang and do other things.
And inspire the creativity to keep going within individuals.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that, I don't know if you knew that, but I thought that was amazing.
I don't know that I knew this particular time that happened, and it is amazing. And it's amazing to me that this was the place that was selected of all the places for them to connect and choose to
come
meet.
back to.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I think if we didn't have this kind of vibe of creativity and things, do I think they would have come back here? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know, I don't know. But I just loved that they did that. And I was proud, you know. But I also have to say, these small towns, you guys have never treated artists like they're nobody. And that's the other secret, too. If you want to work with artists, you can't treat them like they're nobody. It's back to the respect, I guess, of what we were talking about
Absolutely.
earlier. Because you made these cute, for our retreats, you made these cute little, info packs, and
Yeah.
you could tell each one had a special touch to it. And that was such a nice thing to send out
Thank
with
you.
our information
Yeah.
for the retreat. I I think that's the other thing is like, and we shouldn't do that to anybody, but I think it goes back to that artists aren't as valued. But I do feel that the pioneers of working with artists have always treated them like we need you.
Yeah. Our legacy in this community has taught us how important and impactful
Right.
artists can be,
Right.
whatever that art is, performance
Right.
art, visual art,
Right.
makers, crafters, that level of artisan, can complement our community in the safety and the affordability. It doesn't have to be cheap,
Right.
right? It doesn't devalue.
Right.
And we want to lean in, and my office, the tourism office, leans into supporting our artists because just as much as you're bringing a captive audience here for your workshops from all across the country, you're also introducing them to our community, and the opportunity for them to return
Yeah.
is great. And
Yeah.
we should lean in and support you at any turn that you have.
Oh, well, I was, honestly, I mean, I can't say enough good things about how people have responded coming, to Wabash. Everybody has been so lovely to them. And I like where Wabash is going. I can't wait. I can't wait to see what's next,
Yeah.
And I mean, I feel like it, I even feel like, and this kind of goes with what Modox is doing or Bella Zoe or whatever, like the invitation is open to artists in Wabash. Yeah, Darcy sells clothes, but she's had so many shows
Yeah.
of
Kaylee Middlecoop's photography, all the
photography.
different types of, sure.
Yeah, you've got, you've got that kind of partnership, and everybody kind of finds their home. And so I did want to say something to artists, like if you're thinking about like, could I do it? Could I live in that town? Could I live in a small town? You gotta, just like you have guts to produce, you've got to go make the connections too. I mean, like it's so vital.
It is
because
vital.
people want you, and you need them.
Both. It's like, and it goes back to that word respect that you
Yeah.
used earlier, to
Yeah.
this balance. Wabash does have a lot of different artists. You aren't the only artist who has hosted workshops and retreats for those who are really interested in what you do. Mary Hetmansberger, also published artist,
Yeah.
basket weaver,
Yeah.
works with metals. She teaches internationally, brings
Yeah.
people here. Julie Dickey has brought in,
Yes.
Kirsten Stengel, who has come and also taught
Yes.
porcelain art.
Yes.
And of course, that does set the stage with legacy builders like the Honeywell Center, who said it is possible to have workshops like this, and they program year round.
Right. Yeah.
integrate those
and we have so
opportunities.
many local, I mean, like Katie Gray, stained glass,
I know.
I mean,
Kelly Brace, Christy
Yeah,
Church,
it's
Hannah Burns. I mean,
endless.
the list is endless. And we once created, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Candy.
No,
but
you're good.
We once created a list of artists, trying to think of how we could put together almost a consortium of sort. And it's close to 30 that this is their talent, and they are making a living
Working
at
artists.
creating. Yeah, working artists.
and that's the thing, like, for me, I know I sell little, parts and jewelry, and, I can ship easy, but it is, if you have your social media following, it is pretty easy to live here. And because you can zip to the post office in 15 minutes, you have people that'll support you locally.
Yeah.
It's affordable. And there'll be opportunities for you to do something like your Christmas ornament that you've done.
Yeah.
How many years have you worked with artists on that Christmas ornament?
Every single year since we've had them. I think we're in our 12th or 13th year.
I was going to say at least 10 that I know of.
Because
So
you were one of our featured art. And we do
Yeah.
that for that reason. We feature a local artist
Yes.
with that ornament program for that reason.
yeah, I think Manchester has done a great job.
Oh.
They have had
Absolutely.
a long history of artists up there.
And the Center for History, their museum, also features local artisans inside their gift shop.
Yeah, it's nice because even compared to when I moved home in 2008, I don't want to stereotype, but I feel like we are in the Midwest. And sometimes we are a little slow.
We are what we are,
to
yep.
jump in on that kind of, art's kind of a wild bucking bronco. It's like, how far, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
But I'm amazed. I speak that truthfully. I'm amazed at how much more normal
Yeah.
it is, you know?
Yeah, I do. And I've always been impressed too when I have family that comes back to visit who says, "This is incredible.
It's
I
great.
cannot believe you have this much color or talent or willingness to share, take the risk
Yeah.
to share art like this and how well
Yeah.
it's celebrated
Yeah.
in a community of this size." Should communities who aren't, they're all different sizes. We're relatively small. The county is under 30,000. The city is what, just over 10 or 11,000 in residents. Do you think communities should look to Wabash as an example on how they can lean into working closer with their local artists?
I mean, of course. I mean, I think you can go anywhere and learn something, you know?
Yeah.
But do I think we make it look easy? Yeah. Yeah, you know?
But we know it's not.
It's not easy, but I mean, yes, people, you could come here for an afternoon and find 15 different ideas for how to partner with artists, right down from postcards to
right.
murals. I mean, it could be as little as you want. And I think that's the key is we don't have to build the Taj Mahal tomorrow. But if we could showcase some greeting cards by some people
Yeah.
and do a fundraiser or something, it starts small. This was never this huge.
Right.
You know what I mean? It starts tiny.
Yeah.
And then, okay, it feels good. And that's the bottom line is, does it feel good? And I feel like Wabash feels good.
It does. I think you can think creatively too. I believe you can think creatively in the fact that the tourism office approaches working with artists in a multitude of different ways. So we've commissioned large-scale paintings to be done that we owned the artwork so we could reproduce it. And this way, the artist gets appreciated for their talent. So we've had them do compilations of different areas in our community. We own that forever in perpetuity, this beautiful piece of art. And then we turn it into prints and note cards and postcards and then upsell this artist's talent, commissioning ornaments from different local artists. And, the one that you did sold out in a week, and it was a courthouse, and it was totally your vibe and style.
Yeah,
This said Candie Cooper all over it.
Wild.
Because they're different.
Yes.
They're not just the traditional round silk bulb.
Yeah.
The representation. So thinking outside the box on ways to partner from just a retail is one way.
Right.
But leaning into the public works of murals and sculptures and looking at alley walk activations.
Right.
Those conversations can be so broad.
So broad. And I know resources are up and down on, in terms of financials and everything. And how do you do this? But I know there are ways to tap into grants. But I also know if each of us kicked in $100, if each of us kicked in $10,
Yeah.
what could we do? And that's the thing. I feel like art can be so daunting and how to incorporate it into your community. And if you hear nothing else, like it can be just so, like what you're saying on like, can we buy the rights? Let's get the legals and we're going to make these, Christmas cards. Or, hey, can we get 10 of us to kick in $100? What can we do? Can we buy some sort of something sculpted, sculpture or whatever? What can we get for $1,000? What can we do for $5,000? And if you start small, it's like, oh, that feels good. Yeah. What can we do next?
And artists know artists.
Yes.
So if it's not your jam, it's not your talent, you're going to say, you know what, this isn't something that's really in my purview, but let me tell you about. And they could do this, or here's a different or let's collab. I
Yes.
can't do it alone.
Yes. And we've seen a lot of that lately too, and I really like that. Don't you?
Oh, it's my favorite because now you're getting two brilliant minds coming together, seeing it. And I'm not a visionary when it comes to spatial creation. That's not my talent. I'll organize it for you. I'll order what you need. But I'm in awe of people who can look at spaces differently and imagine what it looks like at the end. I interviewed Justin Gillespie a time or two ago on an episode, and he has that in a different way. He can look at blighted buildings in communities and say, this rundown river house can be a speakeasy bar.
Yes.
You know what I mean? He
Yes.
can do that.
He is
You
creative.
can do that. Yeah.
He is creative, and I like how scrappy Justin is too. I say that because I consider myself scrappy.
I always say
he can look at a space and he can say, well, what if we did, and he makes it doable.
Yeah.
And we need that
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Like fearless, doable. Let's just break this down.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's a risk.
Yes.
Artists will take risks. They do. Whatever they're
Nuts.
creating doesn't always turn out right. So you start over, or you rebend, or you learn a
Oh
new
my
technique.
gosh. Like, yeah, you just paint over it.
You start over.
Just paint over it. And we're used to crashing and burning. And I
Yeah.
think that's another thing is like, a lot of people, we're so hard on ourselves, right?
Yeah.
We
I'm
don't,
afraid to fail.
yeah, we don't want to fail. But I mean, when you are in the art business, it's like, well, that's, like, got away from me.
That one crashed and burned, or that boy that wasn't appreciated like I thought it might be. I love it, but
Yeah, we used to joke all the time in college, like, oh, we don't want to go buy groceries, but we'll go blow $50 on art supplies, or
Yeah.
what, $30 at that time.
Yeah.
Felt like a ton of money. But no, we're very used to, having to just keep going. We'll fix it. We can fix it.
would love to know, do you have a favorite piece of public art in our community that you really enjoy? And I hate to pigeonhole you into
You're gonna
just
make me
one,
pick.
but if you can think of one that, or just jumps out to you that really was transformative to an area, or surprised you, or...
I am so smitten with Erica Tyson's murals. Mm-hmm. I just think those were so needed. We didn't even know we needed them till they were there. Mm-hmm. We really needed them. Mm-hmm. I also love that elephant when its head's moving. How do we get that thing moving all the time?
I know.
Who
Put
do
a
we
little
need to
motor on
call?
there.
Yeah.
Somebody stands over there and blows on it, so
Yeah.
it's always windy.
Yeah, I just want it moving all the time.
It's such a surprise.
Probably cause a wreck.
That kinetic elephant is such a surprise when its heads to those, because that's a gateway into our community.
It's neat.
Its location is, yeah. We'll have all of links to some of our public art in our show notes if you're interested in
Okay,
seeing
good.
those for the city of Wabash, and also more about Candie and her journey on how she landed here and some of her successes that she's had over the years, and
Thank you.
the way you've poured into this community as well. I have a piece of jewelry you made, 2010.
I'm sure.
And I still have it. It's one of my favorites. Actually, it was between myself and Jenica Hall, which I'm sure you remember JP and Jenica.
Yes, I forgot about
Yeah,
JP and Jenica.
they've moved on, but she and I were almost like arm wrestling over that necklace that I still have. Yeah,
That's
that I
so
still
funny.
have.
It's fun when you see your work walking around still. It's like a little journal entry of like, I remember that time. I remember,
Yeah.
But that's the thing. Kudos to Wabash for always, and people like you, for always jumping in and supporting artists where they're at, and
Sure.
believing in them. Because that's the secret sauce to working with them, is believing in them, supporting them, because it's like I say, it's a lonely, a lot of us are lone wolves, because it's kind of it's like being a comedian, like what?
Because you're on
Like,
stage
what
by
are you
yourself.
doing?
You're the responsible for the creation.
Yeah, you're putting yourself literally out there to be judged. And it is not, I say that like it's scary.
It is.
So kudos to Wabash
Yeah.
for all believing in artists and seeing the talent and just doing it. And I look forward to seeing, so many seeds. The other thing in my observations of doing this for a few years now is the patience it takes to see these projects come to fruition. Some of it are years, but you plant the seeds and then you got to let it go and do what you can when it's time, let it go. And it does take patience to work together on art in a community and the time, to let that grow into something.
But the benefit on the flip side of that is
Endless.
And I am so grateful so many different organizations look to our artists and celebrate them and leverage their talents, their
Yes.
know-how, their experience, their knowledge, color palette, whimsy, fun, modern, historic. I mean, if you lean into the knowledge of what an artist community can bring to a city streetscape or community development project, this studio is one of a different type of artist, so a designer of creative of spaces. You lean into that talent and you celebrate that. We are all better because of the legacy people who came before who said artists are really going to be part of our roots here.
We need them.
And they're going to change things for us if
Yes.
we lean in.
Yes.
If we lean in.
And I do think it's like, you know, if you think about your interior design space and the amount of public art and the amount of inside art, it is like a home with no decoration.
Sure. Well said.
Think about it like that. How can we make our town more cozy?
Yeah.
Art.
What are we going for? Yeah. And how can you do it? Sometimes it's functional. You know, one of the most photographed backdrops probably in downtown Wabash is the activated alley space between Market and Canal Street, and we'll have a link to that. You know, that was multi-phases. You know, you said sometimes it's years. It first started with just getting a gutter system that didn't pour water
On you.
in the alley walk. Yeah. You know, I mean, that was phase one. A couple years later, phase two were lights.
Yeah.
You
I mean,
know?
that's why being on patience,
Yes.
it's like, oh, we ever going to get them flags going or what? Some color.
We've been talking about this for years, and it can be in increments, and it can be based on funding.
Yeah.
If everybody, what's this phase going to cost us, and what's the long term for this area, and then changing it up, plants, flowers, you know, and making sure on the flip side of that is when you invest in public art or interior art, you plan for maintenance and care for it, especially if it's in the elements. That's one thing that's really important too. Is
That's why we need you.
we care, right? See, that's where I come
maintenance?
in. Who budgets
Just
that?
paint over it. Let's
Start over. It's supposed to look like that in 5 years. It's supposed to
It's
patina.
life.
Do you have any advice for artists that are listening who want to get involved in their community outside of just producing pieces or artwork, but would love to get involved in how can I walk alongside? What any advice you would give those artists?
It depends on what you need. You know, are you trying to grow your business? Are you trying to find a place to exhibit? My biggest advice is to find somebody that you have some chemistry with and go from there. I used to sell my jewelry in shops, and I tried in one shop. This was out of town. Tried in one shop, and the vibe didn't fit me. Like there was nothing in the store I was really like drawn to.
Yeah.
Then I moved to a different store that was more me, and I sold way more work and got way more accomplished because I was more connected mentally with the second shopkeeper. So it doesn't matter if you're just, you know, wanting to exhibit or work or, you know, find somebody with that you got some chemistry with, and don't try to force it, and just keep knocking on doors till you find that person, because then it gets fun.
So
and
you've
it's not so much work as it is, it's work hard.
Yeah.
You
So
know.
if artists need to feel comfortable, confident stepping forward in whatever that needs to be, and communities need to be confident and receptive to stepping toward artists.
I loved that documentary by Martin Scorsese and Fran, it's Pretend You're a City. And she said in it, I'm so mad at myself for her last name. Anyway, she said artists need artists. And so creating those opportunities for artists to collaborate, critical, makes it normal, makes them comfortable, I think. And then they can share ideas and grow and connect. And that's the other big piece of the puzzle, is having, you know, artists need artists.
Yeah. So if we think of something I'm going to take away from how you explain this so well, if we look at our community, our city as a home, our artists are those that help us furnish it.
Yeah, and make it cozy.
And make it cozy and make
Inviting.
it relatable. This community is really special. We hear that over and over again from our guests, and I hope our listeners, it resonates that it's authentic, it's sincere. You know, we don't ask everyone that walks in to say, why do you think Wabash is thriving? Oh, it's the people, or it's the people who came before us that taught us this is how it was supposed to be. This podcast was another one of those art dreams that pushed us outside of our comfort zone at times, and the city and the community leaned in and supported us. And so Thrive in Wabash County is supported by the Lisa Gilman Investment Fund, Sandra Kunkel Trust, Mark and Amy Ford, Paperworks Industries, the City of Wabash, the Community Foundation of Wabash County, and of course, Visit Wabash County supports productions like a podcast, which is kind of like art. Would you agree? We're creating
Yes, I would.
something.
And current. That's what I mean about being current. I love it.
Yeah. Candie, thank you for spending some time talking with us.
I love y'all.
We
Thank you.
appreciate you. We'll have all of Candie's information and contact links in our show notes. And thank you so much for tuning
That
in.
was so
today.
fun.
Until next time, I'm Christine Floor, and this is Thrive in Wabash County.